right, and I do have 4:45, so we will come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Seeger,
Here.
Mr. Holman,
Here.
Mr. Forbes,
Here.
Mr. Scheller, Mrs. Petke here, Mr. Johnson,
Here.
Mrs. Johnson,
I am here as well. Thank you. Dr. Opper, if you could verify publication of the meeting.
Yes, it was.
Thank you. Item A, unfinished business. Consider approval of updated COVID-19 school transition framework guidance for second quarter.
So really no changes here to the document from what you've seen in the past in terms of the color coding or the levels. Mr. Wout just went ahead and put in second quarter determination and implementation dates now. So just wanted to make sure that we brought that to your attention and see if there would be anything that you as a board would want to see changed with this document.
So are there any questions, or if someone would like to make a motion?
Russ Johnson.
this is Mrs. Petke. I'll make a motion to consider the approval of updated COVID-19 school transition framework guidance for second quarter as presented.
I will take Mrs. Petke for the motion. Mr. Johnson, would you care to second?
I sure would. Thank you.
All right, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we would proceed by a roll call vote. Mr. Seeger?
Aye.
Mr. Holman?
Aye.
Mr. Forbes?
Aye.
Mrs. Petke?
Aye.
I believe Mr. Scheller is absent. Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
And it is an aye from Mrs. Johnson as well. Motion carries by a roll call vote. Mr. Scheller absent. Item 6A, new business. Consider approval of football playoff game hosting plan, fans in the stands, and related host school responsibilities per WIA rules.
And we do have Mr. Wolfram and Mrs. Millard on tonight in case you have specific questions for them. Someone did note yesterday a typo in the math. And so the version that you see on your screen has the corrected numbers, which really related to the number of patrons in the stands.
Our apologies for the typo. Thank you, anonymous board member. So I suppose what I can highlight, or Dawn could, I see that she hopped on now, to walk you through. This is similar in its origins to us hosting a regional playoff game with, was it Mishicot at the time, for volleyball. And it's a matter of that if we are going to have home fans be able to attend a playoff game, we need to make playoff tickets available as well for the other side. So we ended up coming to our numbers and our mathematics by calculating what's the maximum capacity of the Manawa Athletic Complex if it would be normal circumstances. And then following the county health guidelines to take 25% of that to come to our total. As you can see, the maximum capacity we've calculated at 1120. 25% of that equals 280 fans, and each team would then receive an equal distribution of 140 tickets. Live streaming is similar to what was the situation in volleyball. There is a cost associated with that, but Mishicot has volunteered to pay 50% of the cost this year. We do have to charge for all tickets, whether they are coach's family, student family, or visiting family at $6 a piece, and children 5 and under are $1. We are setting aside 8 individual tickets for administrators and school board members to be able to attend the game. And so that would be up to 16 total tickets from each side. And in the event that you attend and I need you as a bouncer, I will be calling upon your services. So, Dawn, any other highlights that you can think of that went into the calculations?
No, I don't think so. I think you covered everything that we considered.
And
Dawn's
then
gonna do-
the both of you also wanted, if this gets endorsed by the board, that the same would apply if we were fortunate enough to host another playoff game, which would be scheduled for November 19th.
Correct.
So that way you wouldn't have to have another board meeting. So you'd like this to apply to both dates.
Correct. And that scenario would happen, and Dawn, you know the teams better than I do, being the athletic director. We would have to win, and who would have to win?
Oconto would have to beat Bondwell in order for us to host another game. If Bondwell would beat Oconto, then we would play Bondwell, but that would be Bondwell would host.
And the game is different in that it's on a Thursday evening of next week. And I have no doubt that that's in response to deer hunting starting that weekend.
So guys, we would be looking for a motion, please.
Russ Johnson here. I'd like to make a motion to approve the football playoff game hosting plan as presented.
I have a motion by Mr. Johnson. Do I have a second?
Luke Seeger, I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Seeger. Any discussion?
Dan, I know when you just spoke before, I know it says 8 per side, and then at the end of your talk, you said 16 per side. I'm assuming it's 8 per side, 16 total?
Correct.
Okay.
The other piece that since we're trying to separate, this is our second instance of having fans from opposing teams show up. Dawn is making some signage. We're splitting the bleachers accordingly. It's going to be a little different for our home fans, is that, Dawn, I'll let you explain exactly how we're going to do the bleacher setup.
Okay, so typically we give visiting fans at football games the help me with the directions. That would be the east bleachers, I believe. Okay, so they have the east bleachers. Well, if we would allow them to have an equal number of bleacher space, because we have to be fair, they would be allowed to sit where all of our home fans like to come and put their blankets at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Friday morning of game day. I don't know if any of you have been able to ever see that, but literally we do have parents that show up in the morning and they put blankets. Sometimes they duct tape them onto the bleachers. Sometimes they put garbage bags over them if it's going to rain, but they like their seats right in front of the press box because that blocks the wind or whatever. And it is supposed to be pretty chilly. So Dan and I, when we were standing out there looking, the first 3 bleachers, the sections of bleachers, if you're looking at the school on the left-hand side, are larger. They're the kind of the older bleachers. They hold more people. And then there are 3 sets of bleachers that are a little bit smaller, but they have the handles for people going up. They don't hold as many people. So we would offer the first 3 sets to the visitors. Then Manawa would get the next 3 sets plus that 1 extra kind of on the end. And we envision that would possibly be where our students would want to sit if they were fortunate enough to get one of the tickets. We're not sure, but we thought that way we would, keep our home fans where they are typically used to sitting.
And we're gonna have some nice big signs on both sides of the bleachers indicating that.
Yep, Mrs. Cordis's leadership class is making those for us. Very large signs that you can't miss.
So Dawn, Russ Johnson here. So you mean the bleachers right where the players come in, the very first
Yes.
one to the west there would be for the visitors, correct?
That's what we were thinking, Russ, just
Okay. Yep,
because
just
we-
want to make
yep.
sure.
Yep. I know that's kind of nice because that's where our students like to sit. But, you know, students aren't getting their lottery of tickets this time around. They would have to be able to get one of the 140 tickets being offered, and those are first being offered to the players themselves. So if a student gets a ticket, they would be getting one of the players' tickets. If that makes sense.
Yep.
And you did allow for some fans to be standing along the fence too, which
We
is
did.
preferred by some.
Mm-hmm.
So the 1,000 was for sitting down and the 120 was for standing, kind of as you were
Correct.
contemplating that.
The Railbirds.
I've never sat at a game yet.
And traditionally, we're not sure what to expect from our crowd, but we have not been had a demand for our student tickets either, unfortunately. We haven't sold out of any of our home events, whether it be indoor or exterior. Is that correct, Dawn?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, any further questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none, we will then vote by roll call. Mr. Seeger,
Aye.
Mr. Holman,
Aye.
Mr. Forbes,
Aye.
Mrs. Petke,
Aye.
Mr. Scheller,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
and it is an aye from Mrs. Johnson as well. Motion carries by roll call. Please let the record note that Mr. Scheller did join us at 4:50 p.m. Next meeting date, November 11th. Following this meeting, 5 o'clock is Policy and Human Resources. November 16th is the regular Board of Education meeting, 7 p.m. November 17th, Buildings and Grounds Committee, 5:30. December 7th is Finance at 6. And December 21st is a regular Board of Education meeting at 7 p.m. Looking for a motion to adjourn, please.
Russ Holman, I make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion by Mr. Holman. Do I have a second?
Stan Forbes, second.
Second by Mr. Forbes. Any discussion on the motion to adjourn? Hearing none, by roll call vote. Mr. Seeger,
Aye.
Mr. Holman,
Aye.
Mr. Forbes,
Aye.
Mrs. Petke,
Aye.
Mr. Scheller,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
and it is an aye from Mrs. Johnson as well. Motion carries at 4:59 p.m. Just as a reminder, if you do want to join the policy meeting, you do have to leave this meeting in order to do so. So we will see whomever in a moment. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Good night.